In this video I'm going to talk about the recreational use of psychedelics at festivals and in general. And I'm going to share my opinion on it at the end of this video. Because there is this controversy I've observed in the psychedelic community, right? Of these questions of what is recreational use even? What does it mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it something to be judged? Or is it something to be enjoyed? And it's a very interesting phenomena to look into, right? Also all these questions of how much to take, what dosages, what is too much, how many experiences are too many in a week of a festival, what about different substances, how many different substances to take in a week, what is disrespectful, what is not responsible anymore, what about combining substances, what is dangerous, right? What about intentions and integration of recreational use? Is that even a thing to be combined? Or sometimes is there even a need for intention and integration? Or is the intention of fun and recreation enough for a responsible use of psychedelics? All those questions, so many questions and so little answers, right? Hey, I'm Vergo and this is Psychedelic Actualization. On this channel we talk about topics like self-realization, self-actualization and working with psychedelics to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. And working with them in a responsible manner, in a mature manner. And what that means and what that looks like is what we're going to talk about today, right? Because I think there is a need for balance. Balance is such a nice word, and it shows that balance is such a wise perspective regarding everything in life and in reality, right? And here in this topic, I have found that there is a pendulum between psychedelic elitism and psychedelic abuse. It's two extremes. One is kind of this perspective of or the presentation that we're going to be responsible with psychedelics. Psychedelics are only there for therapeutical use, only in a proper ceremony. And then there's the other extreme of psychedelic abuse, just getting high, recreation, having fun, taking as high of a dose as possible, in as wacky of a setting as possible, and combining all kinds of stuff to just get out there. And that might be seen as abuse, right? I don't want to judge any. But those are two extremes. And I think it's interesting to see where the balancing point lies in that pendulum. And most people do not fall into these extremes. It's good to appreciate and acknowledge that as well. Most of the people I've met at psychedelic conferences who talk about the therapeutical benefits of psychedelics are taking some substances at the after parties. And the people who do go very extreme at psychedelic festivals and just go and combine different kinds of substances and go very intense high dose experiences and experience like crazy stuff, some of them are also doing responsible work with them and being genuinely curious about the therapeutical benefits and the conscious integration of those substances in our culture. So it's this balancing point, but there are these two extremes, and there's a pendulum between those. And I guess also good to mention, and what came to my mind is to mention the role of politics. The role of politics and the topic of inhibition that has been present in our culture, that has influenced many perspectives and many of those two extremes. Because then we have this inhibition. And because of this inhibition, or because of the political environment that we find ourselves in and the law enforcement, we have the people who try to present this overly responsible therapeutic view of not presenting a perspective of having fun with those substances, because then we cannot get the legalization through, right? And then we have the other side, the more like revolutionary rebel anarchists of people who say, I am free to take whatever I want to take, whenever I want to take, wherever I want to take, in whatever I want to, in whatever way I want to take it. Again, these kinds of extremes, because of this political environment that's kind of still playing out in the background. And there is no right answer. I guess that's my answer for this video. That's why it's so hard for me to share my opinion, because I like to have this broader picture, this bigger picture perspective on things, to zoom out a little bit. And still I'm gonna share my own approach and my own opinion at the end of this video. But I cannot say to you that you are too stiff, or that you take too much, too high of a dose, too many wacky combinations. I cannot say that to you. It doesn't feel like I have the right to do that. Because I try to embody a way of being that is without judgment. Let that sink in for a bit. A way of being without judgment. It's not easy. Maybe even not even possible. But that's kind of the foundation I'm striving for. So the only thing I can do is to be curious. Because curiosity heals judgment. Right? To get to know you personally. To spend time with you, to have conversations, to make observations, to ask questions, to explore your perspective on things and your approach to things, and then facilitate the raising of your self-awareness in your own life, in your own situations, for you to see for yourself if how you approach psychedelics and how you are engaging with them, if that's therapeutically or recreationally, is aligned with who you truly are and with how you truly want to show up. Right? And if it is in service for your own alignment of how you choose to live your life, if it's serving you and those around you. And basically, side note, that's exactly what I'm doing in my practice. I love to help psychonauts discover and actualize their life purpose so they can live in alignment with who they truly are. And that includes the use and the responsible and mature use of psychedelics, and to integrate them properly into one's day-to-day life. If you're curious about having such a conversation with somebody, then click the link in the video description. That's the landing page for my coaching offer. And if that resonates, we can have a look at that, right? So still, there are a lot of different perspectives on this topic of a recreational use of psychedelics, right, out there. And here, right now, I want to share a few perspectives to open your mind and to broaden your horizon before I share my own approach and my own perspectives from my own heart. Because these perspectives right here, I have kind of collected them. They are not my own, but I have deep appreciation for each of them, and it's interesting and valuable to contemplate them. So here they are. Psychedelics used recreationally help remind us of the simple joys of life, of things we sometimes forget because we are so busy getting from A to Z that we forget that there are 24 letters in between. Recreational psychedelic use is a valid spiritual practice. Fun, music, appreciation. In research circles, the unspoken and yet obvious truth about these extraordinary substances is that when done properly, there are generally safe and healthy ways to have an enormous amount of fun. These recent developments in our psychedelic research have contributed to the removal of the stigma associated with using these substances, so long as the reason for use is not to get high. If your aim is to seek relief from an emotional or physical ailment in order to achieve spiritual transcendence or to find your God, cool. But if you really want to have a good time, not cool. This arbitrary distinction makes no sense. Isn't the party, rave, or recreational use the most legitimate? There's no agenda, no pretending. It's a pure natural form of experimentation. Party and recreational use is frowned upon by these movements because of the desired re-legitimization. But this festival culture has its own systems and mechanisms. Regarding the party scene and festivals, taking psychedelics at parties and trance out and reach a shamanic state of consciousness is perhaps almost a lost art. There can be a great deal of value in dancing all night at such parties, as a good forest party can be akin to a religious experience. Trying to really let the body go into dance
and many people report a peak experience which they describe it as being danced rather than dancing. Some intellectual defenders of the rave movement have adopted Gurujev's system as a way of explaining the innate mystical rapport ravers feel while dancing. In consciously engaging with the dance, circuits in the body open up and more creativity and openness can occur in the dance. I did not find it at all easy being vulnerable among the different energies and intentions of all people in such an exposed environment. The psychedelic trance scene, like most subcultures, typically wears a more strict uniform than even mainstream cultures. We are very clear in certain subcultural codes, in the form of clothing, language, and attitudes that prevail. Even though the individual is promised individuation, at the end of the day, the tribe codes prevail, and fitting in and conforming to those tribal codes is the de rigueur if you want to be part of the tribe, which often considers itself special and different from other mere mortals who typically listen to less driven and less tribal electronic dance music. At those festivals, it's a good place for recreational use, for safety, infrastructure, the testing of purity, education and harm reduction. The epena, the tryptamine stuff of the vaika, and others are used as recreational intoxicants, and recreation is recognized as a legitimate purpose for altering consciousness. All of these uses are surrounded by ritual. At every step of the process, from cutting the plants to administering the prepared drug, the Indians do things in traditional, careful, often elaborate ways, even when the use appears to be casual, as in the case of the Vaikas and their epena snuff. I have met people who have taken LSD hundreds of times and had not discovered that the experience had anything to do with their own unconscious. For them it was like going to a strange movie, where they saw colors and patterns, everything was moving, people's faces and the environment were strangely distorted, and they experienced intense but incomprehensible waves of emotion. Such use of LSD is dangerous and is conducive to poorly resolved experiences, prolonged reactions and flashbacks, or even worse. Safe psychonautics requires undivided attention to one's unconscious material as it is emerging, the full experience of emotions, and the processing of the content. Recreational use is like playing with diamonds like mermaids.
So my approach at the moment, my opinion regarding this recreational use, I'm still finding my way. I'm very early in this kind of movement. It feels like, even though I've been here for 9 years exploring psychedelics, but I've started on my own and slowly moving into recreational space more now. But I guess I do engage in responsible use recreationally, as well as continuing to do my solo explorations. Kind of my solo explorations, they feel more valuable, they feel more serious. That's where I do my main work. I do prefer those, and those are my main foundations over little recreational experiences or festival trips or whatever. I do those. I do festival trips. I do have some recreational experiences, but those are few. Those are few, and I do truly more enjoy also the solo explorations, the eye mask therapy playlist, going deep inside, or being alone in nature, right? I do enjoy this kind of series work more, and I feel like it's the only opportunity, this kind of setting, not recreationally, where I can go into the furthest depth of my own being and into deep explorations of consciousness and of reality. In festival experiences and settings, or even outside with a group of people, I'm more in the outside. I'm more drawn outwards, which changes the nature of the experience. Not necessarily for the better or for the worse, but as I said, I do truly appreciate and enjoy the deep work more than the fun outside. And still, I do enjoy having fun. And I see like for myself, and I feel like for myself, that there's nothing wrong to utilize psychedelics for that, to bring them into the fun. Nothing wrong with that. in a responsible way, right? Recreation, as we heard in one perspective, can be a spiritual experience. Because all experiences of life are spiritual experiences. There's nothing separate. There's nothing separate. So, to enhance those, to join those with psychedelics, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that for me personally. Right? And responsible use for me looks like at the moment that I am comfortable with the substances I'm using in recreational settings. For me at festivals, that means I'm mostly using only one substance, not too many, not too combining too many, and also not going into too crazy high-dose experiences, right? For me personally, I like to stay with LSD. Mostly LSD I feel very comfortable with in recreational settings. The shrooms, they take me more inside, on a journey inside, and it's sometimes I don't like to be around too many people, but that's just me personally. I do like to have some Changa experiences here and there. I feel very comfortable with Changa. And as my example with the Anushka Shankar concert, I felt comfortable there going into Changa experiences, also in social recreational settings, which is an interesting one to contemplate, right? If that is disrespectful, the DMT against the DMT, but I don't feel like it is. I don't feel like it is. I even tried a little bit of 5-MeO DMT at Medicine Festival a year ago or 2 years ago. And I find that that was fine. The low to medium dose 5-MeO DMT experience at a concert. Very, very interesting topic to contemplate. And for some it might feel too serious. Even for me nowadays it feels too serious to do that in such a setting. But it's possible. And then I do like to have my rapé and my mapacho. I love nicotine, I love tobacco. It's been one of my favorite substances. I love to connect with it, even in combination with LSD or mushrooms or Changa. Not in the Changa experience, but after. You know what I mean. But yeah, as I said, low to medium doses. For high ones, I feel like I would just like to be in a safe environment, in a more predictable setting, in a more quiet setting as well. But maybe I'm also just not crazy enough, or it's just not in my nature, or I'm not there yet. It might change in the future as well. I have to say this when I capture something on video, that things and perspectives and my approach to things changes over time. It's not set in stone. I'm on my journey of discovering and exploring myself. But it might be different for you. That's what I said. It's like there's no right and wrong. I have many friends. I have some friends who are just bonkers, who are crazy. And they go into very high dose experiences. They go into very wacky experiences, combining 5-MeO MIPT with a little bit of 4-ACO DMT and this and that, and then a little bit of Amanita on top, and it's like, or whatever. And they go into very high dose 800, 900 mic LSD experiences, and they just have crazy experiences also at festivals, right? But who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? For some, it might be detrimental and it might absolutely destroy them and they're having a hard time. But I know people who are having a good time, who are just absolutely insane in their minds. And I love those people. Greetings to you, if you know who you are. And it's like lovely people, good from the heart, amazing friends of mine. So going into recreational experiences, but also going into ceremony and respecting the substances, doing service to the substances. So that's about it. That's some of my observations. If you would love to see more about those little perspectives and observations regarding all kinds of things, regarding my perspectives and where I'm hanging around and what I'm doing, then you can follow me on Instagram, psychedelicactualization.com. Yeah, psychedelic actualization, at psychedelic actualization, if you haven't already. I love you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm curious about your perspective. Much love.